How strong is that? This, you can walk on this, you can walk on it. Yeah, it's very strong. It's like, so if you've got some valuable cargo in the back, this will protect your cargo and secure it against being stolen. Indestructible, the future of trucks. But now, with 8 recalls in just over a year and thousands of vehicles under investigation, a very different picture is emerging. Beneath the angular armor of Tesla's most hyped machine lies a structural flaw so widespread that it had gone unnoticed or unspoken until now. The functionality I'm going to describe is within a space that is less than the most popular pickup truck in the United States, the F-150. So, we didn't cheat in either width, height, or length. Even mainstream commentators are starting to raise alarms. On Fox News, Jesse Waters questioned how a vehicle so heavily promoted as bulletproof could fall apart at the seams, calling the situation one of the most embarrassing product failures in recent memory. Now, with new investigations and internal leaks coming to light, the truth is finally breaking through the steel. Here's what they found in nearly every Cybertruck and why it's worse than we thought. Steel and fantasy. They promised us the future wrapped in stainless steel and shaped like a war machine. But what they didn't say is what's now turning up in nearly every Cybertruck. Tesla's boldest creation was marketed as indestructible, revolutionary, and immune to the weaknesses of traditional vehicles. With its angular exoskeleton and brushed steel body, the Cybertruck wasn't just a design statement. It was a declaration. But now, that declaration is cracking, literally. A stainless steel beast that looked like it drove out of a dystopian film. Bulletproof, rugged, electric. This was Tesla's promise of what tomorrow would look like. With its angular exoskeleton and unpainted steel, it rejected the soft curves and glossy veneers of modern trucks. It was brutalist, alien, hypnotic, a machine plucked straight from a sci-fi future where utility ruled over comfort and strength over style. When Elon Musk unveiled the Cybertruck in 2019, the world took notice. The product launch wasn't just a car reveal, it was a cultural event. He promised a vehicle that could survive a sledgehammer, deflect bullets, and haul more than any truck on the market. The internet exploded. Pre-orders flooded in by the hundreds of thousands. People who had never even thought about buying an electric truck were now queuing up to own a piece of this vision of the future. Elon Musk called it a love it or hate it design. But the bigger claim was about strength, raw, unshakable strength. It wasn't just an electric pickup. It was a symbol of disruption, of independence, of power. This wasn't just a truck. It was a fortress. The specifications were almost too bold to believe. The exterior was made of ultra-hard 30X cold-rolled stainless steel, armored glass, a towing capacity of 14,000 pounds, and the promise of zero compromise. The Cybertruck was meant to be the final word in durability. But as the first wave of trucks rolled off the production line, reality began to chip away at the myth. Owners started noticing things. Subtle at first, then harder to ignore. Hairline fractures, warping steel, panels misaligned straight from the factory. Something was wrong. And it wasn't just a few vehicles. It was nearly every Cybertruck. And what they found beneath the surface, it was worse than anyone expected. Recalls upon recalls. By early 2025, Tesla's most anticipated vehicle had been on the road for just 15 months. In that time, it had already racked up 8 separate recalls. What had once been a symbol of innovation and forward-thinking technology had now become the focus of increasing scrutiny. Tesla had prided itself on its ability to roll out game-changing technology, first with electric sedans and now with its rugged new electric truck. But the road to revolution was rarely smooth. What was once hailed as the boldest design in automotive history was now facing some glaring technical hiccups. Issues ranged from faulty inverters to accelerator pedals that could get trapped in floor mats. These weren't just minor fixes. Some raised fundamental questions about the manufacturing quality Tesla had boasted about for years. Tesla's usual response to these issues had been swift. Many recalls were dealt with in the usual corporate manner, with fixable problems being addressed before they could escalate. But as the recalls piled up, it was clear that something deeper was at play. These were not just growing pains of a startup. It was beginning to feel like there was a design flaw no one had seen coming. The most alarming recall came in May 2025, when a massive issue arose that might haunt the reputation of the Cybertruck for years to come. It affected 46,096 Cybertrucks, all of them built between November 13th, 2023 and February 27th, 2025. The numbers were staggering. The implications were worse. For the first time, the Cybertruck wasn't just being recalled for faulty electronics or minor cosmetic issues. This recall involved a critical structural flaw. The truck's exterior panel, a sleek metallic surface running alongside the windshield, was detaching during highway driving. This wasn't a minor aesthetic defect. This was a major issue that affected the structural integrity of the vehicle. The panel wasn't just decorative, it was part of the roof's structural bond, designed to provide support to the entire body of the truck, and it was coming off. The fact that a vehicle built as bulletproof and indestructible could suffer such a fundamental flaw shook the faith of early adopters. Tesla's reputation for producing cutting-edge, durable vehicles had been shattered. How could a truck with such grand promises fail at something as basic as holding its panels in place during high-speed driving? The recall sent shockwaves through the automotive industry. How had a truck designed to be the future of transportation fallen short in such a spectacular way? Investors, tech enthusiasts, and customers alike had placed their trust in Cybertruck's promises. And now, they were left wondering if those promises were ever truly realistic, or if they were simply the result of another of Musk's wild dreams that could not be fulfilled. This wasn't just about fixing a defect. It was about Tesla's image, the integrity of its manufacturing, and the future of electric trucks. Could the company recover from such a catastrophic oversight? Would the Cybertruck ever live up to the image that Tesla had so carefully cultivated? Or was it doomed to become another cautionary tale about overpromising and underdelivering? In the end, this recall wasn't just about a truck. It was about the fragile line between genius and failure that Elon Musk and Tesla were constantly walking. As more issues continued to surface, the reality behind the Cybertruck began to feel less like a glimpse of the future and more like a warning of what can happen when fantasy meets the harsh realities of engineering. The strip that failed. At the core of the Cybertruck's construction was an unassuming yet crucial component known as the K-rail assembly. This element, which ran along both sides of the vehicle's windshield, was designed to be the backbone of the truck's structural integrity, connecting the roof to the vehicle's front frame. Tesla's engineers, in their vision of the truck's futuristic construction, had chosen to secure the K-rail in place using a specialized structural adhesive. The adhesive was marketed as a marvel of engineering, designed to resist environmental stress, vibrations, and the harsh conditions the truck was promised to conquer. For a vehicle of its caliber, built to withstand extreme temperatures and the unpredictable wear and tear of daily use, the adhesive was supposed to be a game changer. It was the perfect solution for a modern, no-nonsense vehicle built for a new generation of drivers. But in practice, the adhesive didn't hold up. Tesla had miscalculated, or perhaps overestimated, the material's real-world resilience. Under the intense thermal cycling of the hot and cold environments that the Cybertruck would inevitably face, the adhesive began to break down. The vibrations from the vehicle's powerful engine, combined with the daily bumps and stresses of the road, caused the bond to weaken, and over time, moisture infiltrated the joints. The result was catastrophic. The panels began to fail, not just crack, but detach entirely from the vehicle's frame. This is shocking. The report from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, NHTSA, declared, but it wasn't just the failure of one isolated component. It was the failure of a vision, a promise that Tesla had made to a tech-hungry, forward-looking public. The Cybertruck wasn't just a truck. It was supposed to be the truck of the future, a masterpiece of innovation. Yet it was unraveling in plain sight. The NHTSA report was a wake-up call, but it wasn't just the official word from regulators that made the news. It was the reaction that followed. Viral disintegration. As the first few instances of panel detachment surfaced, they quickly found their way onto social media. What started as isolated incidents soon became viral phenomena, sparking conversations and causing outrage in equal measure. People, ordinary everyday drivers, were able to peel off Cybertruck panels with nothing more than their bare hands. There were no tools involved, no brute force, just a simple grip and a gentle tug. It was almost as if the panels were attached with nothing more than a simple sticker. Videos flooded platforms like Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. Influencers and everyday drivers alike were posting footage of themselves casually removing the panels, their commentary dripping with disbelief and ridicule. Tesla, the name that had once been synonymous with the pinnacle of technological achievement, was now the punchline of a new wave of internet memes. The same people who had once lined up in droves to pre-order the Cybertruck were now questioning how a vehicle so heavily marketed as indestructible could fall apart so easily. The internet erupted. It wasn't just the shocking nature of the disintegration. It was the betrayal of expectations. Here was a product that had promised to defy all conventional wisdom, to stand strong against the forces of nature. And yet, it was failing in the most basic of ways. But it wasn't just memes that were circulating. The true depth of the problem emerged when experts and teardown investigators got their hands on the vehicle. What they uncovered was far more troubling than initially imagined. The adhesive, once thought to be uniformly applied, was inconsistent. Areas where the K-rail had been adhered were found to have varying degrees of bonding strength. Some regions were clearly underbaked, leading to weaker connections. Other areas, which had been exposed to even minimal moisture or road salt, showed signs of corrosion beneath the panels. It wasn't just one bad batch. It was a systemic issue with the core design. Tesla's response was swift but silent. Quiet fixes were made in the background. Software updates were sent out to address minor issues, and reports of panel detachment started to slow down. However, the changes didn't silence the mounting criticism. The problem was not just fixing panels. It was the trust between Tesla and its customers. How could the public trust the Cybertruck's other innovations to last when the world's most awaited vehicle failed to deliver? For all the flashy, headline-grabbing features, it turned out the most critical aspect of the Cybertruck, its structural integrity, was in jeopardy. What was marketed as a symbol of futuristic design had exposed itself to be a fragile house of cards, destruction, and backlash. The fallout from the Cybertruck's disastrous structural failures wasn't just technical. It had become a full-scale societal crisis. Across the country, Tesla's once devoted fan base turned hostile. Showrooms that had once drawn crowds of eager buyers were now defaced with angry slogans and graffiti. The violence was as shocking as the product itself. In cities like New York, Los Angeles, and Denver, the destruction was deliberate. Tesla's sleek, futuristic design was torn down, not just with spray paint, but with raw fury. In Colorado, a woman was arrested after launching Molotov cocktails at Tesla lots, setting several vehicles ablaze. Graffiti sprayed across storefronts and charging stations read, "Nazi cars and steel lies." The sight of burned Tesla vehicles, once symbols of innovation, now lay in ruins, their metallic exoskeletons charred and ruined. Much like the reputation Tesla had worked so hard to build, this wasn't a mere issue with automotive design. It was about betrayal. People felt they had been sold a dream that turned out to be nothing more than a mirage. The damage to Tesla's brand wasn't just financial, it was personal. Customers who had believed in the company's vision for a sustainable, groundbreaking future now felt deceived. The aggressive marketing and claims of indestructible vehicles had backfired spectacularly. What once was a bold move in automotive design now looked like a reckless gamble with human lives at stake. What followed was a national conversation about safety. News outlets began to question not just the structural integrity of the Cybertruck, but the ethics behind its rushed production. The public's trust had been broken, and no marketing campaign could fix that. Tesla's once unwavering fan base, the very people who had elevated Musk to icon status, now felt betrayed. Despite the growing anger and escalating protests, Tesla's leadership remained resolute. Elon Musk, seemingly unfazed by the public outcry, pressed on. Deliveries of the Cybertruck continued, with the company insisting that fixes were underway, though few tangible changes seemed to appear. Although Tesla's stock experienced a dip, investors largely maintained their position, placing their trust in Musk's ability to withstand the challenges. But as the public fury intensified, the company was forced to confront the undeniable truth. Trust had been shattered, and the road to recovery would be long and fraught with obstacles. The damage wasn't just financial, it was reputational. And as the scandal grew, the question on everyone's mind was whether Tesla could survive its own arrogance, cracks in the foundation. As the crisis continued to unfold, Tesla's internal challenges became impossible to ignore. What had started as a seemingly isolated issue with the K-rail assembly rapidly spiraled into a full-scale investigation that uncovered much deeper systemic problems. Inspectors, both independent and hired by regulatory bodies, expanded their scope beyond the initial issue and began to probe deeper into the manufacturing process. What they found was far more alarming than anyone had anticipated. Welds, essential for the vehicle's structural integrity, were found to be inconsistent across different vehicle batches. The precision needed to assemble such a complex and angular vehicle was clearly beyond what Tesla's assembly lines were capable of achieving. In some cases, welds were hastily applied, leaving gaps or visible signs of stress. The Cybertruck, with its sharp edges and military-inspired design, demanded an extraordinary level of precision, which appeared to be lacking in the assembly process. Further examination revealed issues with the wiring looms, the networks of wires responsible for the vehicle's electrical systems. Some wires were loosely secured, others crisscrossed in places where they could rub against metal parts, risking short circuits. The lack of standardization was becoming painfully obvious, and it was clear that Tesla had cut corners in a way that left even their most loyal followers questioning the brand's commitment to quality. And the most alarming discovery, the torque measurements on several critical components were found to be off, sometimes by a significant margin. The discrepancy in torque meant that the vehicle's critical stress points weren't being properly aligned, putting enormous strain on the parts that were supposed to be holding the vehicle together. Panel gaps varied wildly between individual trucks, even among those that had been proudly displayed in Tesla showrooms just days before. It was becoming increasingly clear that no two Cybertrucks were alike. At first glance, the issues might have appeared as isolated incidents, a few bad vehicles slipping through the cracks. But as investigations deepened, the truth was undeniable. The Cybertruck's assembly process was anything but standard. It was reactive, rushed, and done on the fly. The promise of a meticulously engineered vehicle was crumbling. The Cybertruck's design, which had initially been hailed as a breakthrough in automotive engineering, was proving to be a logistical nightmare. Its angular, industrial aesthetic, which set it apart from every other truck on the market, required an unparalleled sequel of precision in manufacturing. Instead, what Tesla had produced was a vehicle that couldn't live up to the standard it had set for itself. And beneath the vehicle's aggressive exterior, it became increasingly apparent that the true vulnerability of the Cybertruck lay not in its raw power or its outward design, but in the very foundation upon which it had been built: the financial collapse. Tesla's stock, once the darling of Wall Street, began to slide. At first, the decline was gradual, a subtle, almost imperceptible dip. But soon, the downward spiral turned violent, as if the market had finally realized the magnitude of what had been overlooked for so long. Analysts, who had once championed the company's unstoppable ascent, now began downgrading their forecasts. Financial media outlets, which had gleamed with headlines of Elon Musk's brilliance and the company's innovative triumphs, now started running stories about Tesla's troubled future. By the end of Q2 2025, Tesla's market valuation had plummeted by a staggering 42%. Investors, both institutional and retail, pulled out, abandoning the company like passengers jumping off a sinking ship. Once enthusiastic consumers began to question Tesla's direction, its leadership, and the promises that had seemed so secure just months earlier. The Cybertruck, once touted as a groundbreaking symbol of durability and the future of electric vehicles, was no longer the shining star of Tesla's portfolio. Instead, it was becoming an anchor, weighing the company down. But this financial collapse wasn't just about stock prices. It wasn't just about a dip in valuation or shrinking market confidence. This was about credibility, an implosion of trust in a company that had once been seen as the golden standard of innovation. The credibility Tesla had carefully cultivated through years of audacious claims, daring designs, and visionary promises was now crumbling at an alarming rate. The damage extended far beyond stock prices and quarterly reports. It was a public reckoning, one that would reverberate across the automotive industry and beyond. Yet through all of this, the most damning discovery had not yet been revealed. Tesla's reputation, its very foundation, was on the brink of complete collapse. The most unsettling truth was still buried beneath layers of PR fixes and hopeful optimism. It wasn't just a few bad parts. It wasn't an isolated incident. What investigators would ultimately uncover would reveal that the entire production process was flawed at a fundamental level, exposing just how deep the company's troubles ran. The reveal. It started with internal documents. Then came the whistleblower. For months, investigators had been piecing together the extent of Tesla's Cybertruck crisis. But what they uncovered in the final stage wasn't just another quality control failure. It was the smoking gun. A leaked engineering memo marked internal use only revealed that Tesla's upper management had been warned about the K-rail adhesive issues months before the first recall. The memo, dated late 2023, showed internal engineers flagging inconsistent curing conditions, improper application techniques, and a failure to validate bonding strength at scale. The most damning part, the internal note acknowledged that, if left unaddressed, the defect could compromise the structural integrity of the cabin during rollover or high-impact events. In plain terms, Tesla knew the K-rail flaw wasn't cosmetic, it was structural, and they shipped the trucks anyway. But this wasn't the first sign of trouble. Leaked internal documents obtained by the German newspaper Handelsblatt and Wired revealed that, as of January 2022, Tesla was still struggling with its pre-production Alpha Cybertruck prototypes. The issues ranged from weak suspension systems and poor body sealing to braking inconsistencies, excessive noise, and handling problems. The documents painted a clear picture. The Cybertruck was far from production ready, even as marketing campaigns suggested otherwise. The Cybertruck's structural flaw wasn't a one-off mistake. It wasn't a faulty supplier or a small batch error. It was systemic, built into the very foundation of the vehicle's design and production. Nearly 95% of Cybertrucks inspected showed signs of improper K-rail bonding. What should have been a tightly controlled, precision-engineered process had been rushed and improvised under the pressure of aggressive deadlines. The consequences weren't theoretical. In crash simulations conducted by independent researchers, the weakened bonding meant potential failure of the roof structure and windshield retention during rollovers or side impacts. The very exoskeleton that Tesla had marketed as bulletproof now looked dangerously unstable. As the findings went public, the backlash was swift. On social media, viral videos of dislodged panels and crumbling structures painted a devastating portrait of the once hyped truck. Influencers, tear-down experts, and former Tesla engineers all joined the chorus of criticism. News outlets across the globe questioned how the most anticipated vehicle of the decade had managed to launch with such a glaring structural flaw. Tesla CEO Elon Musk responded with a combination of defense and reassurance. During a Fox News interview with Sean Hannity, Musk acknowledged the recalls but stood by Tesla's record. He emphasized the company's commitment to resolving the issues and reaffirmed Tesla's intention to prioritize customer safety and satisfaction. But for many, the damage was already done. The Cybertruck, once seen as a symbol of the future, was now a case study in overreach. It wasn't just a matter of fixing a truck. It was about restoring credibility to a company that had promised too much too soon. This was the moment the myth broke. When the steel curtain fell away, what was revealed wasn't the future, but a factory rushing to keep up with fantasy. If a company like Tesla can build the future and still miss the basics, what else might be hiding in plain sight? Share your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching this video with us, and catch you in the next one.